All right, let's go ahead and get started with example 6. We're going to solve each equation and check your answer. So what I'd like you, these are kind of some challenge problems. I want you to go ahead and try these on your own. So how about you try just A and B, okay? Go ahead and pause your device, work out A and B, make sure you check your answer. When you get done, go ahead and press play and listen to, write in pencil, please write in pencil on these. And then listen to the explanation thoroughly, and then, yeah, we'll go over in a bit. All right, see you in a bit. All right, we're back. Let's go ahead and start on A. This one is a challenge. Let's see how you did. Okay, so what do we have? We have 4x plus 2 multiplied by the quantity, 4 minus 2 multiplied by the quantity, x plus 2 equals 2x minus 4. There's a lot going on, okay? So what we need to do is we need to simplify each side of the equation. This over here is already simplified, so we're just going to write that over a bunch of times. But we need to simplify this portion over here. And we're going to do so by just using the distributive property, okay? So remember here, oh, yeah. Okay, so this is a bracket, but that's kind of like a parenthesis. They just use parentheses and brackets. They're really both parentheses, but they use two different ones just to show that they're different. Okay, but we have to do the inside one first. So we have to distribute. Now, what number are we going to distribute to both things? Do you remember? We are going to not only distribute that 2, but also the negative in front of the 2. That is a negative 2. Okay, so we are going to distribute that negative 2 to both things, the x and the 2. So we just rewrite all this, 4x plus 2, bracket 4. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 2, a negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 2 is 4. Equals, we just rewrite this, 2x minus 4. Okay. Then, oh, I forgot the bracket right here. Okay. Okay. Then what do we do? We're going to go ahead and simplify this inside the parentheses. So I'm going to rewrite this 4x plus 2. What do we have? 4 minus 4, that ends up being 0. So we end up with just negative 2x equals 2x minus 4. And those brackets, that's just the same thing as parentheses. So this just means 2 times negative 2x. So we're going to do the multiplication here, which would be, I'm going to rewrite this 4x first. So 4x, and then 2 times a negative 2x would be positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 2 is 4. And then x equals 2x minus 4. And then we have 4x minus 4x, where that cancels out, and that's 0. So we just write 0. It's okay to write 0. Some people are afraid to write 0, but it's okay to write 0. Sometimes things are 0. You just write it, 0. And then we're trying to get x by itself, so I'm going to get rid of this bit on over here. We're going to add 4 to both sides. 0 plus 4 is 4 equals 2x. And that cancels, and then we just divide by 2, inverse operation of multiplication. 4 divided by 2 is 2 equals x, or x equals 2. Boom. There we go. That's our answer. Now we're going to have to do the check, which is a little tricky because we only have so much space on this paper. But I think I'm going to do my check over here, which isn't necessarily ideal. I don't know. I just feel like doing it below or on the right side, but that's okay. We can do it right here. We're going to write the word check. And then I'm going to write that original equation, the whole thing, okay? But I'm going to write small because it's kind of long. 4x plus 2 multiplied by the quantity, 4 minus 2 multiplied by the quantity, x plus 2 equals 2x minus 4. Whew, just enough space. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and substitute that 2 in for x. So we have 4 times 2 plus 2 multiplied by the quantity, 4 minus 2. And then we get substitute 2 in for x again. equals 2 times 2 minus 4. Oh, barely fit. Okay. Order of operations, there's a lot to do on this side. So obviously you do parentheses, but we're going to do the parentheses inside of the parentheses first. Whew. So we have 4 times 2 here plus 2. 4 minus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Equals, and I can simplify this. 2 times 2 is 4 because it's on the other side of the equation. So it's almost like the equation almost divides it up where it's like this is one problem over here and this is a separate problem over here. So, okay. Now we have order of operations for this side of the equation, parentheses, and we have subtraction and multiplication. So we're going to do the multiplication first. I'm going to rewrite this. 4 times 2 plus 2, 4. This is a negative 2 times a positive 4. So a negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 4 is 8. So it's negative 8. And then I can do this side. 4 minus 4 is 0. Okay, we're just still doing order of operations. So parentheses again. 4 times 2 plus 2. 4 minus 8, that would be negative 4. All right, and then we have multiplication, right? So both of these are multiplication. 4 times 2 is 8. And then 2 times a negative 4, positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 4 is 8. Equals 0, and 8 minus 8 is 0 equals 0, which is true, which means our solution, x equals 2, is the solution to the original equation right here, that big boy. Man, if you got that one right, that is amazing. That is a tough problem. Okay, let's go ahead and do B and see how you did on B. So for B, what we have is we have quite a few variables, right? We have x here, x, x. And so there's a couple different ways you could solve this one. You could, you solve it by, remember we talked about 2 ways of solving a problem with fractions in a previous lesson. We talked about just keeping the fractions and using the fractions, or we talked about multiplying it by a particular number to get rid of all the fractions. So, I don't know, let's just keep the fractions and see how that goes. So we have the fractions here. These have a common denominator, right? So since they have a common denominator, that means that we can just add the things on top. So we can go x plus x would be 2x, and 5 minus 1 would be a positive 4 over 2 equals x minus 1 all over 3. Perfect. Okay, so now what we have is we actually have a proportion. And so what I can do, we haven't talked about the cross products property yet, so we won't solve it that way. I think what I'll do is I will divide this. So whenever you have anything like this, and we'll do this when we have lines, you can divide this up into separating this into 2 fractions. Like 2x plus 4 is all over 2, right? But that 2x plus 4 is over 2 is the same thing as 2x over 2 plus 4 over 2. And that equals x minus 1 over 3 is the same thing as x over 3 minus 1 over 3. They mean the same thing. So what I'm going to do is just simplify this. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times x is just x. And then we have 4 divided by 2 is just 2, so plus 2 equals x over 3 minus 1/3. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to get the variables on the same side, moving the smaller. And I know that x over 3 is smaller than x, because that's 1x, right? So I'm going to subtract x over 3 to both sides. And then this cancels, and this becomes, 1x over 1. That's what 1. And we need a common denominator here. So between 1 and 3 it would be 3. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. And what happens is I get 3x over 3 minus x over 3. And there's no number here in front of the x, but there's a 1. That cancels. Negative 1/3 is on the other side. So then I just go ahead and simplify this. They have a common denominator, so 3x minus 1x would be 2x over 3 plus 2 equals negative 1/3. And then we're just solving to get x by itself. So we're going to subtract by 2 to both sides, the inverse operation of addition. That cancels. Then we have fractions again, so we need to make this into a fraction. Make it 2 over 1. We need to get a common denominator between 1 and 3, which would be 3. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. Then this just moves down. 2x over 3 equals negative 1/3 minus 2 times 3 is 6 over 3. Okay, I'm going to rewrite this here. This equals, now I have a common denominator, I just go negative 1 minus 6, which is negative 7 over 3. And then I have a fraction multiplied by a variable. And whenever I'm trying to isolate that variable, remember what we talked about, we can just multiply by the reciprocal. And that's really, really nice because then just everything cancels out and becomes 1. And 1 times x is just x. And then we're coming over here and we're multiplying fractions again. So always remember to cross cancel first and then multiply across, right? So we're going to look to cross cancel. The 3 and the 3, there's a common factor of 3. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 3 one time. And then we multiply across. Negative 7 times 1 is just negative 7 over 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so that's what we end up with. Negative 7 over 2. Perfect. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do that check in this little itty bitty space over here. Somehow this is all going to work out. Okay, so we're going to do the check. So I'm going to rewrite this equation. Kind of small. All right, we're going to go maybe a different color. Use green. Okay, I'm going to go x plus 5 over 2 plus, write the original equation, x minus 1 over 2 equals x minus 1 over 3. All right, then we're going to substitute this answer in for x here, here, and here. So we have negative 7 over 2 plus 5 over 2 plus negative 7 over 2 minus 1 equals negative 7 over 2. Oh, wait, this is all over 2. I'm sorry. X is negative 7 over 2. We're substituting that in there. Minus 1 all over 3. All right. So this looks like a lot. We have a complex fraction here, which means a fraction and a fraction, and another one here and another one here. So whenever you have complex fractions, what I like to do is just think about it one step at a time. So I'm going to get rid of all this, and all I'm going to do is that one little bit right there, because I can do that. I'm not going to look at the whole thing. I'm just going to look at this. I'm going to do one piece at a time. All right? So I'm going to make this a 5 over 1. I'm adding fractions, right? So I need to get a common denominator. What would be the common denominator between 1 and 2? It'd be 2. So I need to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. Okay, what I'm going to end up with is negative 7 over 2 plus 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 2 is 2, all over 2. Okay, and then I'm going to move here to this complex fraction, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm only going to think about that one little thing right there. Negative 7 over 2 minus 1. So we're going to make this a fraction, and what would be the common denominator between 1 and 2? It would be 2 again. So I'm going to multiply the bottom and the top by 2. And what I end up with, that was a plus sign. I end up with negative 7 over 2 minus 1 times 2 is 2. Well, 1 times 2 is 2. 2 over 2 all over 2. And that equals, and now I'm just going to take all that away, just this problem right here. So I'm going to make this one a fraction, right? I'm subtracting fractions. I need a common denominator. Between 1 and 2 would be 2, so multiply this by 2, the top and the bottom. And what I end up with is negative 7 over 2 minus 1 times 2 is 2 over 1 times 2 is 2 all over 3. Now we're just going to continue to do one thing at a time. We're just going to do this bit right here. So we have a common denominator, right? So we just go negative 7 plus 10. Well, that's 3. So it's 3 over 2. So this bit right here equals 3 over 2 divided by 2 plus, we just do this bit right here, have a common denominator, so it's basically negative 7 minus 2, which would be negative 9 over 2 equals, and then this last little bit here, negative 7 over 2 minus 2 over 2, common denominator, so we just go negative 7 minus 2, which is negative 9 over 2 divided by 3. Now, whenever I'm dividing fractions or complex fractions, a fraction, like a fraction on top of a fraction, pretty much, I like to go old school with it. So when I say old school, this means 3 over 2 divided by 2. So I'm just going to write that in the old school way. 3 over 2 divided by 2. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Plus negative 9 over 2 divided by 2 equals negative 9 over 2 divided by 3. Now, whenever we're dividing with fractions, and I'm going to make each one of these a fractions, what we know is we can change it to a multiplication problem by multiplying by the reciprocal. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rewrite this 3 over 2, and I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of this, which would be 1/2, plus negative 9 over 2 multiplying by the reciprocal, which would be 1/2, equals negative 9 over 2 multiplying by the reciprocal of 3 over 1, which would be 1/3. All right, now it's just a whole lot of multiplying fractions, right? Look to cross cancel first. Uh-oh, I gotta zoom out. Something just happened with my zoom. Okay. Look to cross cancel first and then multiply across. So can't cancel anything here, can't cancel anything here, multiply across. 3 times 1 is 3 over 2 times 2 is 4. We have negative 9 times 1, which is negative 9 over 2 times 2, which is 4, equals, look to cross cancel. Hey, we can cross cancel here. There's a common factor with 3 and 9. It's 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So we're going, we can't do anything with 1 and 2. So we're going to multiply across. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3 over 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, okay. Now on this side of the equation, we have a common denominator. So we're just going to go 3 minus 9, which would give us a negative 6 over 4. Well, those don't look the same. However, can we reduce this fraction? Is there a common factor between 6 and 4? Well, yeah, they're both even, so that means that 2 goes into them. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 4 2 times, and there you have it. There's our answer. Negative 3 over 2 is equal to negative 3 over 2. It's a true statement, which means our solution, x equals negative 7 over 2, is a solution to the original equation right up here. Holy cow, that was a tough problem. If you got that one right, that is amazing. Great job. Okay, let's go down to C and D. And I'm going to give you a chance to work on these on your own. So there's my friend the pause dragon reminding you to pause, work out these problems. Remember to write in pencil. When you get done, press play and look at the results and make sure you do your checks as well. Check by hands. All right, we'll see you in a bit. See you in a bit. All right, we're back. Let's go ahead and solve this problem. See, we have 2/3 W minus 1/4 equals 2/3 multiplied by the quantity W minus 1/4. Okay, so we have a bit of simplifying we can do over here. There's we can distribute this 2/3, and it's a positive 2/3 because there's nothing in front of there, to the W and also to the negative 1/4. So I'm just going to rewrite this on this side. And I think I'm going to write it over here so I have enough room to do my check. So I'm going to kind of move it over here. 2/3 W minus 1/4 equals 2/3 times W. And then 2/3 times negative 1/4. So I'm going to go a positive times a negative is a negative. And then I'm going to go 2/3 times 1/4 like that. Okay. Now we have this multiplying. We're going to multiply these fractions, so we can look to cross cancel and then multiply across, right? So the question is there a common factor between 2 and 4? Yes, 2. How many times does 2 go into 2? 1 time. 2 goes into 2 1 time. And how many times does 2 go into 4? It goes in 2 times, right? And then we would multiply across. But first I'm going to rewrite all this. So 2/3 W minus 1/4 equals 2/3 W. And then we multiply across. A negative times a positive is a negative. 1 times 1 is 1. All over 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. Now we are going to get the variables on the same side by moving the smaller one. They're the same, so I'll just move this one over. Negative 2/3, it's positive, so the inverse operation would be a negative. So this cancels, and what we're left with is negative 1/4 equals negative 1/6. And the variables canceled out. Is that okay? Yes, it's okay. What are we left with? Remember that when the variables cancel out, that means that we're either going to have no solution or infinite solutions depending on this statement. And is negative 1/4 equal to negative 1/6? That is a false statement, which means there is no solution. There is no number that you can stick in for W and it will work. So that is the answer, no solution. If you got that one right, awesome job. Okay, let's move on to D and see how you did. So again, we have 2/3 X. It's another fraction one, plus 1/2 equals 3/5 X minus 5/6. So let's just go ahead and solve this by keeping the fractions. So we're going to move the smaller one out of 2/3 or 3/5. Which one is smaller? I think 3/5 is smaller than 2/3. I'm pretty sure. So we're going to do the inverse operation of addition, which would be subtraction. So we're going to subtract 3/5 X to both sides. Okay, this cancels. We're going to have to get a common denominator. So between 3 and 5, when you count by 3s and you count by 5s, what's the first number they both have in common? It's going to be 15. So we're going to want to make that denominator 15. So that means I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. And then I'm going to have to multiply this one by 5. So what do I get? I get 5 times 2, which is going to be 10x over 5 times 3 is 15, minus 3 times 3 is 9x over 3 times 5 is 15. And then I rewrite this, plus 1/2 equals negative 5/6. Okay, then we simplify here. 10x minus 9x is just 1x, right? So we have x over 15 plus 1/2 equals negative 5/6. Then we want to get x by itself, so we're going to subtract this bit on the outside, or we're going to get rid of this bit on the outside, and it's positive, so we're going to do its inverse operation, which would be doing a negative to both sides. Those cancel. We're left with x over 15. Then here we have negative 5, 6 minus 1/2. We have fractions, so we need the same denominator. We don't have the same denominator, so if we count by 2s and we count by 6s, what would be the first number that they both have in common? And the answer would be 6, okay? So this is a 6, so we can just leave it as it is, but we need this to be a 6. So to make this a 6, we would multiply by 3 to the bottom and the top. That means we're left with negative 5, 6. 1 times 3 is 3, and that's a negative, so negative 3 over 2 times 3 is 6. So I'm going to rewrite this x over 15. I have a common denominator, so I just go negative 5 minus 3, which is negative 8 over 6. And then we multiply both sides. We want to get x by itself, right? It's x divided by 15, so the inverse operation of division would be multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by 15. Okay, these cancel and become 1. 1 times x is x. And then we have to simplify this bit over here. 15, we're multiplying fractions, so we want to make that 15 into a fraction. And remember, we're always going to cross cancel and then multiply across, right? So is there a common factor between 6 and 15? The answer is yes. 3. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 3 goes into 6 2 times. Okay, so then we multiply across. We get negative 8 times 5, which is going to be a negative 40 over 2 times 1, which is 2. So we get x equals negative 40 divided by 2 is 20. So our answer is x equals negative 20. Did you get that? Okay, then we are going to check it. We're going to go ahead and check it right over here. So I'm going to change my color. I'm going to write the word check. And we're going to go 2/3 x plus 1/2 equals 3/5 x minus 5/6. We're going to substitute negative 20 in for x here and here. So 2/3 times negative 20. Remember, whenever you're substituting in a negative number, you got to put it in parentheses. Plus 1/2 equals 3/5 times negative 20 again for that x minus 5/6. Okay? So here we go. We're multiplying fractions. Okay, we look to cross cancel. There's nothing we can cancel here, so then we just multiply across. 2 times negative 20, a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. 2 times 20 is 40 over 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1/2 is equal to, and here we're multiplying fractions again. We're going to make that negative 20 over 1. We're going to look to cross cancel first. Can't do anything with a 1 and 3. Is there a common factor between 5 and 20? The answer is yes, 5. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 20 4 times. We go 3 times a negative 4. A positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 1 is just over 1. Minus 5/6. All right. So now we just need to simplify this fraction on this side and simplify this fraction on this side. So we need a common denominator between 2 and 3. If you count by 2s and you count by 3s, what's the first number they have in common? It's 6, right? So we need this to be a 6